compassion. How high your mercy, how wide are your loving arms that surround even me. To a far-off land I wandered, and I squandered everything I own. But in desperate poverty, my mother's love for me was calling, come back home. How deep is your compassion? How high your mercy? How wide are your loving arms that surround even me? Well, my mother saw me in the distance. She'd been waiting all the while for me. And even though I strayed so far, she took me in her arms. Her love would set me free. How deep is your compassion? How high your mercy? How wide are your loving arms that surround even me? How high are your loving arms that surround even me? Follow in these footsteps, cast your burden down. Breathe like it's your last breath, pray without a sound, and offer up your best gifts, pass it all around. Follow in these footsteps, walk on holy ground. Oh, jump into the river, feel the current pull. Breathe like it's your last breath, and offer up your best gifts, pass it all around. Follow in these footsteps, walk on holy ground. You are called my daughter, you are called my son. Come up through the water, know that we are one, and offer up your best gifts, pass it all around. Follow in these footsteps, walk on holy ground, and offer up your best gifts, pass it all around. Follow in these footsteps, walk on holy ground.
What a day we have been given. A day of joy and gratitude, and a lot of praise and sunshine, and likely some measure of grief and loss as well, because that is just the nature of life. We're glad you have come here today, whether you're attending online or here in the sanctuary in person. And we hope this hour's worship will restore your faith as we live through times of so much change and challenge. I'm Reverend Karen Herring. My pronouns are she, her. And I want to say it's great to be back with all of you on the chancel. It's been 2 years since I last spoke from this chancel as your associate interim minister. And I've honored the practice of stepping away from the congregation after serving as your minister. And I return today not as your minister, but as a fellow member. And I'm grateful to be leading this summer service with Isaac Fried and Ahmed Anzaldua and the Threshold Choir. And I want to give a shout out to Mary Nienaber for this beautiful gathering music. Thank you for sharing that. Now, about this blank page. Yes, it's blank, and intentionally so. That's how it's supposed to be, and don't worry. This is just for today. This is no indication of what worship will be like with Reverend Oscar. It's just for this service, because today we are asking the question, what's trust got to do with it? And we're considering the many situations of our times where we are stepping into situations and developments with no maps, no guides, no order of service that will tell us what's coming down the road. And of course, we know the story of the future is always unwritten. But in times of great change, as we've recently seen in our national electoral campaigns, things might take a turn in a whole new direction, sometimes desired and sometimes not. So, in the spirit of living into and leaning into the unknown and being present in the moment as we do, we are asking you today to trust your worship leaders, Isaac and Ahmed and me and the Threshold Choir, to lead you through this hour. And we pledge to you that we will do our best to tell you what is coming up next and what you need to know to participate. And if you miss something that we've told you, lean over and ask your neighbor. That's a good way to build connections. Or if you want to revisit a reading or a song, feel free to reach out to me after the service, during the picnic, or by email afterwards. I'm always willing to respond to that. We are in this together, friends, today and always, in a faith community based on covenant and commitment and liberating love. Trust has everything to do with it. Now, a few announcements before our worship begins. As you know, based on the bounty in the parish hall and the long list of activities in your insert today, Unity Church is a vibrant community, and much of what is happening after today's service and in the weeks ahead is included in that insert in your order of worship, which is fully printed, I want to note, called This Week at Unity. And I especially want to draw your attention to 2 announcements today. For those of you who are wanting to learn more about Unitarian Universalism in a facilitated small group that meets regularly over the coming year, consider signing up for UU Wellspring. This year-long program of spiritual deepening explores the 6 sources of our living Unitarian Universalist faith tradition, And through reading and reflection, daily spiritual practice, spiritual companionship, and small groups process, it holds space to hear our deepest truths. This program is a meaningful way to explore what Unitarian Universalism means to you and how you want your faith to guide your life and your work for justice. Registration is open until this Wednesday, so don't delay if you want to participate. Details are in this week at Unity. Secondly, we hope you will all join us after the service for a welcome picnic with our new minister, Reverend Oscar Sinclair, and his family. Is Oscar in the house right now? Thank you, Oscar, for standing up. Stand up just a little longer so people can see who they're looking for. Food will be served in the parish hall, and you're welcome to sit inside or head outside under the tent or across the street at the park. Wherever you can find a place, please stay and join the gathering. We have enough food there, I think, to serve the city of St. Paul, somebody said to me. So don't hold back. And during that time, you might also find Isaac there in this T-shirt he is sporting, which relates to the theme of today's service. So if you get up close to Isaac in the picnic, you can read his T-shirt, which is a math teacher's version of today's theme of the unknown. All right. Now, let us pause to center ourselves as our tower bell calls us to deeper attention and intention as our time of worship begins.
I just want to say a word or two about the Twin Cities Threshold Singers. We began in 2019 here at Unity Church and then took a pause during the pandemic and have come together again. Some of our members are Unity Church members and some of our members are from the wider community. We are one of over 175 chapters of the Threshold Choir International. We are the Twin Cities Threshold Singers and the only chapter in Minnesota. And when we are called bedside to someone who is dying, we go out in groups of 3 to 5 and sit bedside and sing for the person who is dying and for their family and friends. It's quite an honor and a holy journey that we are on. Most of our music comes from the repertoire of the International Threshold Choir Association. And we are honored to be here today.
what you choose to show. I'm always there for you, and so I just want you to know that I am sending you light to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you light to hold you in love. I walk the path with you. Slow, dear one, don't hurry. I'll go just like you need to go. There is no need to worry. I am sending you light to heal you, to hold you. I am sending you light to hold you in love.
Good morning. We come together now to worship. Spirit calls to spirit, hand reaches out to hand. Even when it is unclear how to proceed, we can trust. Heart joins with heart, voice lifts with a song of praise. Come, let us worship together. Please join me in the chalice lighting words by repeating after me. We light this chalice as a symbol of our faith. We light this chalice as a symbol of our faith. The light of truth and the warmth of love. The light of truth and the warmth of love. Ahmed will now lead us in singing our opening hymn, Come, Come, Whoever You Are. You can find the words on the back of the non-existent order of service.
Good morning, everyone. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Ahmed Al-Saldu. I'm Director of Music Ministries here at Unity Church. And we're going to sing, Come, Come, Whoever You Are. I invite you to stand as you are willing and able. And the first thing we're going to do, we're going to acknowledge that not everyone knows it. So we're going to sing it through just one time. If you know it, please sing it with me. If you don't know it, listen so that you can sing it the next time. So here we go. Come, come, whoever you are, wonder, worshiper, lover of weaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet and come. Lovely, let's try it, everyone together, and come, come, whoever you are, wonder, worshiper, lover of weaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet and come. All right, so now the words, ours is no caravan of despair, but oh man, we sound so dreary when we're singing this. Can we maybe, make it a little bouncier? Okay, so then in this church in particular, our former minister Rob Eller Isaacs used to add the part And though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, so you've broken your vows 1,000 times, broken your vows, whoever you are. Okay, good. You get the idea. So let's see if we can sing this in a 4-part round. So I'm going to start in here in the middle. If you don't feel confident singing the 4-part round, you can sing the though you've broken your vows 1,000 times part, or you can just pick a part and fade through. So this quarter over here, you're going to start. You guys are going to follow. You guys next. You guys last. You're going to repeat it over and over again until you get tired of it and it feels natural to stop. Ready? And come, come, whoever you are. Come, come, whoever you are. Come, come, whoever you are. Come, come, whoever you are.
Thank you, Ahmed. That was lovely. I'm not a singer, so. We will now take a moment to engage in a responsive reading, which you can find in the back of your gray hymnal, number 670. That's 670. It's entitled The Way by Edwin Muir, 670. Everyone there? All right. Friend, I have lost the way.
The way leads on.
Is there another way?
The way is one.
I must retrace the track.
It is lost and gone.
Back, I must travel back.
None goes there, none.
Then I'll make here my place.
The road runs on.
Stand still and set my face.
The road leads on.
Stay here, forever stay.
None stays here, none.
I cannot find the way.
The way leads on.
Oh, places I have passed.
That journey's done.
And what will come at last?
The way leads on.
We'll have the embracing meditation next.
Each time we gather for worship, we set aside a moment to expand the caring ministry of this congregation. We take a moment to settle ourselves, to pause, to breathe, to enter a time of meditation, quiet reflection, or prayer. Our human condition includes the truth that on any given Sunday, there may be one among us who is celebrating a new relationship, a new home, a new vocation, while another is facing cancer, and yet another is mourning the loss of a loved one. There may be some among us who have found relief or peace on this day, while others are struggling with mental health or illness. And we know that many are experiencing the joys and the challenges of the spiritual practice of raising children. Someone among us is worried about making ends meet, and another is concerned about a loved one in prison. There may be one among us who has wounded others by their addiction, and one who is celebrating another decade of recovery. There may be one among us who is facing their final days, and we support them in this time of transition that requires curiosity, courage, and honesty. We hold in care all these and more as we pray for the peoples of this courageous congregation, and as together we live into our longing to embody and help build beloved community. Today we hold Jean Seabury in our prayers this morning as she mourns and celebrates the life of her mother, Rosalind Seabury Collins. Rosalind has been in hospice care, attended to by her niece and members of her church. She died peacefully last Sunday, just after the visit from her dearest friend. She was 93. Jean says this: Rosalind lived life to the fullest and was vibrant until the end, continuing to make art, enjoy music, and share her loving spirit and sense of humor with others. The funeral will be August 29th with her 3 children, 8 grandchildren, and her 2 great-grandchildren, traveling to lay her ashes to rest alongside her husband, who preceded her in death by 17 years. We also hold Bob Woodford and partner Joanne Krieger in our prayers. Bob is in rehab at Regents Hospital after suffering a stroke last weekend. Joanne reports that conversation is difficult at this time with short-term memory loss, but grateful that Bob is in relatively good shape otherwise. Bob has been a regular participant with both the men's retirement group and Afterthoughts, and is so grateful for these points of fellowship and care at Unity. We invite you now to speak the names of those who are on your heart and mind today. And will you pray with me? Holy One, source of all being and promise of all our becoming, so much in our lives and our world is changing rapidly and deeply. Even when we long for change and work for it, it can be hard to know what to trust and how to create trustworthy relationships and communities that can stretch and flex with a world in flux. We pray today to be guided by the wisdom of our free faith tradition, reminding us that trust is not found in just one place, one belief, one perspective. We give thanks for the covenant we share with one another, teaching us to trust the bonds of love and commitment, abiding across differences and through change. Love calls us to open our hearts to change, to one another, and to the holy ark of life that holds us all. May we each place our trust in that longer ark, in the power of hearts held open by mystery and wonder, and in the liberating love that grows there. in action and stillness, in words and silence. Amen. The Threshold Choir is now going to sing a song titled There Is Love. Come on up. And this song is based on a meditation written by Rebecca Parker, Reverend Dr. Rebecca Parker, who is the former president of our UU seminary, Starr King. And she wrote this as a meditation for a time in her own life when she needed a trustworthy practice to get her through each day. It has since gotten a lot of us through a lot of hard days.
Our first reading today is First Lesson by Philip Booth. Lie back, daughter. Let your head be tipped in the cup of my hand, gently, and I will hold you. Spread your arms wide, lie out on the stream, and look high at the gulls. A dead man's float is face down. You will dive and swim soon enough where this tide water ebbs to the sea. Daughter, believe me, when you tire on the long thrash to your island, lie up and survive. As you float now where I held you and let go, remember when fear cramps your heart what I told you. Lie gently and wide to the light year stars. Lie back and the sea will hold you.
I just want to give a heads up to the sound tech that I'm inserting a comment here that isn't on their script, so we're really all in this together today. Remember, the poet says, when fear cramps your heart, lie gently and wide to the light year stars, lie back and the sea will hold you. In the uncertainty of our times, what practices help you relieve the fear that cramps your heart? What helps you to lie gently and wide to the light year stars overhead, which is to say, to keep your heart open, to let sea and earth and universe and the spirit of life itself hold you face up, open, to sky, to time, to change, and to others. Singer and songwriter Leah Morris says when she was growing up, her mother would make up songs and teach them to Leah and her sister to help them transition from one activity to another. You know, those big ones like putting away your crayons and tying your shoes to go out. Simple songs to help them with transitions like that. And in her own adulthood, Leah Morris says this practice returned to her in early 2020 during the pandemic when we were all living through unfathomable transitions and uncertainty. And so during that isolation of sheltering in place, she would go for a walk each morning and write a song. And the songs would help her through the day, and then she'd record them and post them online so that the rest of us could use them to get through the day as well. So this song we're about to learn and sing with help from the Threshold Choir was one of those songs, one that is still being sung by individuals and congregations today with its reminder to keep our hearts wide open, trusting relationship to hold us even and especially when change comes. You'll find the words on the back of your non-existent order of service. And if you're online, they will appear on the screen. And the Threshold Choir will lead us in this song. Thank you.
You gotta keep your heart wide open, though the waves wanna push you around. You gotta keep your heart wide open till your faith brings you back to solid ground. Everybody stand and sing. I gotta keep my heart wide open, though the waves wanna push me around. I've gotta keep my heart wide open till my faith brings me back to solid ground. Thank you. Please be seated.
I have often depended on singing when it's unclear what will come next. When I haven't known what to trust, singing has been a way to ground myself and to connect with others. When I was in seminary, learning to overcome my fear of public speaking, I was a worship associate in a different church, supporting a Sunday service with a guest speaker. I'd communicated with the speaker often and created an order of service that was even printed. But when Sunday morning came, the speaker didn't show up and was not answering their phone. As the service started, I had talked to the ushers, but I said nothing to the congregation, still hoping the speaker would arrive late. But we got to that moment of the sermon, and still no speaker. So I stepped into the pulpit, and in a shaky voice, I said, well, I thought I'd learned how to lead worship in seminary, but none of my studies have told me what to do in this situation. And then, as I nervously scanned the congregation, something shifted in me. I saw one familiar face after another, looking at me in kindness. I felt the encouragement of relationship. We've got this, I thought. We are in this together. And then I asked them to take out their hymnals and to enjoy an impromptu service of hymns and readings that we would select together. Someone shouted out a hymn and we sang a verse or two. Someone else called out a favorite reading, and we opened to the back of the book and read it together. It's like our Christmas carol shout here, only a little less competitive. It was energetic and joyful and thoughtful, too. We sang our way into and through the unknown, and we enjoyed that worship hour together. I've turned to singing in my personal life, too, singing my way through anxious times when traveling, singing a new mantra daily when my only child left for college, singing my way across the state of Wisconsin in a snowstorm to reach my mom's bedside on the last day of her life. As the snowfall increased and the road disappeared, I clutched that steering wheel and I sang to increase my concentration and to keep my heart open. I composed new words to a song as I drove, a song from our hymnal, and I sang it for hours until I arrived there safely. And then I taught the song to my sisters and my father, and we sang it to my mother, like our own little family threshold choir. Went something like this: circle round for our loved one, circle round in love. And it went on. Singing calms the nervous system. It keeps us present in our bodies, which helps us trust what is happening, even and maybe especially when we don't know how it will turn out. And singing with others extends our embodied connection, which also builds trust. Whether we sing in unison or in harmony, bringing different voices and notes together to lift up one song. In the uncertainties of this time, globally, politically, environmentally, locally, congregationally, personally, in the uncertainties and the unknowns of this time, what helps you when, as the poet puts it, your heart cramps up in fear? Writing after 9/11, the visionary author Gloria E. Anzaldúa, and yes, she is related to our own Ahmed, Gloria Anzaldúa wrote this about how we respond to unexpected catastrophe and the uncertainties of challenging times. Devastating events, she wrote, prompt us to realize our common humanity as we see beyond what divides us to what connects us. We're compelled to reach out beyond our walls of distrust, extend our hands to others, and share information and resources. The human species, she said, our survival depends on each one of us connecting to our vecinos, our neighbors, whether they live across a street, across national borders, or across oceans. What we do now, she wrote, counts even more than the frightening event, close call, shock, violation, or loss that made cracks in our world. En estos tiempos, in these times of loss, fear, and confusion, the human race must delve into its wells of collective wisdom, both ancient and modern. It is tempting when the world reveals its fault lines to deny ourselves and others the gifts of trust. But UU minister Robert Walsh reminds us of another truth in his poem, Fault Line. Did you ever think there might be a fault line passing underneath your living room? A place where your life is lived in meeting and separating, wondering and telling, unaware that just beneath you is the unseen seam of great plates that strain through time, and that your life, already spilling over the brim, could be invaded, sent off in a new direction, turned aside by forces you were warned about but not prepared for. Shelves could be spilled out, the level floor set at an angle, in some seconds shaking. You would have to take your losses, do whatever must be done next. When the great plates slip and the earth shivers and the flaw is seen to lie in what you trusted most, look not to more solidity, to weighty slabs of concrete poured or strength of cantilevered beam to save the fractured order. Trust more the tensile strands of love that bend and stretch to hold you in the web of life that's often torn but always healing. There's your strength. The shifting plates, the rest of earth, your room, your precious life, they all proceed from love, the ground on which we walk together. It is love, my friends, the ground on which we walk together that serves as the bedrock of trust, even when it moves. Please join now in singing Heart Wide Open again, this time with more familiarity, with a little added harmony from the choir. Please rise and sing.
You gotta keep your heart wide open. The waves wanna push you around. You gotta keep your heart wide open till your faith brings you back to solid ground.
The next reading is an excerpt from a poem entitled Not Alone by Andrea Gibson. Whenever I wake up thinking, no one is going to win the human race, we are all going to lose unless something changes soon, I give myself space. I remember the most effective remedy for my depression is being told I am not alone. And I know we are not alone. Better than Pythagoras knew the earth wasn't flat, knew you couldn't walk to the edge of it and simply fall off, go far enough and you simply run into something you couldn't imagine existed. The coral reefs, or the lavender fields of France, or the bayous of Louisiana at dusk, or the long aspen tree that's right now tapping on my living room window. Its autumn leaves blinking like 2,000 yellow lights, begging me to slow down. And no, the truth is a planet we haven't discovered yet. But it has discovered us. What does it mean to be grounded in reality? How many senses have I had to shut down to have common sense? I don't want my sense to be common, to pace a cubicle of conditioning, my dreams limited to a nap, my consciousness sold to the same folks buying extinction. I don't know how to save the world, but questions themselves are telescopes. I know there is medicine in knowing how much we don't know. I know there are answers in being awestruck. I know someone, somewhere, is pointing to a speck of light that is our tiny blue planet and saying, I bet that planet is capable of sustaining life. And for now, they'd be right. I don't know how to save the world, but questions themselves are telescopes. I know there is medicine in knowing how much we don't know. I know there are answers in being awestruck. Such wisdom from Andrea Gibson. Are we able to let go of what we know, so that we might discover and help create what we long for, the truth and reality that we are not alone? Next, we will explore another song created and shared during the pandemic, meant to help us put down our fears and to let go of our pre-pandemic ways of being, to let go of the need to know, to connect us to one another so that we become more trustworthy to others, and we might trust that where we are going might be better than what we have left behind. This song was created by a group called the Peace Poets from the Bronx. We'll sing it once to learn it with the help of the Threshold Choir, and once again after Karen's reflection to add some harmonies.
This is the moment. Put down what you're holding. Everything is changing. Listen to the wind. And when you hear it, you don't have to fear
When did we decide that knowledge is better than mystery? Certainty more desirable than questions, and answers preferable to awe and the medicine of being awestruck. The poet Andrea Gibson says, when they feel hopeless, they give themselves space, by which I understand them to mean personal space, space that makes room for curiosity, and perhaps also outer space, beckoning with mystery and wonder. Our space program in this country has long been marked by encounters with mystery that have sometimes shocked the scientists involved by moving them from a mindset of analysis to one of awe. Edgar Mitchell, an astronaut on Apollo 14 in 1971, was the 6th human being to walk on the moon. He spent 9 full hours on the lunar surface. And in an interview 30 years later, he said this, "And then on the way home from the moon." Wouldn't you love to start a story that way? "And then on the way home from the moon, looking out at the heavens, this insight, which I could now call a transcendent experience, happened. I realized," he said, "that the molecules of my body had been created or prototyped in an ancient generation of stars, along with the molecules of the spacecraft and my partners and everything else we could see, including the Earth out in front of us. It was all very personal. Those were my molecules. It was an experience of connectedness," he said. "It was an experience of bliss, of ecstasy, the type of experience that brings tears to your eyes, you don't know why. Tears of joy, not sadness. The experience continued for 3 days. It was so profound. I realized that the story of ourselves as told by science was incomplete and likely flawed. I recognized that the Newtonian idea of separate, independent, discrete things in the universe wasn't a fully accurate description." End quote. Space, here on Earth and beyond, helps us experience ourselves in a wider context and in an interdependent web of being and connection. It makes clear that not only are we not alone, but we are not in control. We are not the biggest force of the universe. We have a part to play, to be sure, but so do many other beings and many other elements in nature, in life, in history. Even our lineage has a part to play, carried in our bodies, healed or still waiting to be healed. All this can become more apparent given a little space, revealing new perspectives, teaching us reverence and humility, wonder and curiosity, inviting us to trust a web of relationship that is older and wiser than any of us is alone. When overwhelming change makes it hard to know what to trust, it can be helpful to remember we are in this together, to recall our own embodied experiences of connection, of being held, supported, encouraged, and loved in relationship with others. As I return here to Unity Church now, not on staff, but as a member, I have experienced this congregation from the space created by 2 years' absence. And in that space, while I was gone, you all have done enormous, remarkable healing work. Work that involved grieving the departure and then the deaths of our beloved senior ministers, Reverend Rob and Reverend Jan. Work that explored the fault lines of differences that opened among us in our first attempted search for a new minister. Work that spoke honestly about broken trust in that process, and then took steps to restore trust. Work that named discord and conflict within the congregation, then learning healthy ways to engage that conflict within our covenant with one another. It was challenging work done with intention, but I also see that it was more than work. More than a task or a strategy well executed, it was the practice of covenantal love carried out one day at a time by all of you, learning to trust yourselves and one another and the larger congregation that holds us all, to make it through a difficult time of change together. I can't know what your experience was of the congregational meeting last April when we voted almost unanimously to call Reverend Oscar as our new senior minister, but I will tell you mine. I sat in almost the same place where I had been 2 years earlier when we did not reach agreement in a different congregational meeting to call a minister that day. I sat in almost the same pew 2 years later, and I felt in my heart and my body how much you had all grown in covenant with one another while I had been gone. And I felt welcomed into and embraced by that deepened relationship. Tears came to my eyes that day as I experienced the bond that had been strong before. But in the 2 years I had been gone, it had become those tensile strands of love the poet talks about, capable of bending and stretching in a web of relationship, sometimes torn and always mending. It became clear to me in that meeting, this community of faith now has a powerful embodied experience and memory of trusting and being trustworthy across differences. A memory now embedded in the DNA of this congregation and imbued in the sacred air of this sanctuary. For all who come here in person and online, today and in the future, to breathe in, to be held by, to learn from, and to carry out into the world. In a book titled Sand Talk, Tyson Yunkaporta offers an indigenous perspective on many cultural and historical issues of our time. He considers the Western notion that humans use just 20% of our brain power and muses with some delight that our ancestors must have used the other 80% at some point, or we would not have developed that extra capacity. What if, asks somatic therapist and activist Susan Raffo recently, what if the other 80% is our collective brain, the one shut down by rigid individualism so prominent in dominant Western culture? What if our untapped brain power is, in fact, the embodied consciousness of shared wisdom and resources that we receive from one another when we're willing to cultivate trust in the space beyond our individual selves, in the space of relationship and community? Is this the collective wisdom that Gloria Anzaldúa wrote about as a necessary resource for overcoming the distrust of our times? If that's true, friends, then this community has a rich resource as we live through and lean into these times of change and challenge? How might we draw from the wisdom and capacity gained in our collective experiences of grieving losses, healing across differences, and practicing a living covenant and a liberating love that stretches and grows as we do, individually and collectively? How might we share that beyond the walls of this sanctuary? Another NASA-led space mission will be launched this October. Perhaps you've been following it. It will travel 1.6 billion miles over 6 years to study Jupiter's moon, Europa. The spacecraft, dubbed the Europa Clipper, will collect data to determine if the Europa moon has conditions suitable for life as we know it. Engraved in the spacecraft itself will be a poem written by the current poet laureate in the United States, Ada Limon. I close with this poem and its celebration of mystery, which is to say, uncertainty, and the importance of encountering the unknown, not by raising barriers, but by reaching out, keeping our hearts open with an unfolding love, and trusting that the only thing capable of crossing and healing the differences between us is now and always has been love. In praise of mystery. Arching under the night sky, inky with black expansiveness, we point to the planets we know. We pin quick wishes on stars. From Earth, we read the sky as if it is an unerring book of the universe, expert and evident. Still, there are mysteries below our sky. The whale song, the songbird singing its call in the bough of a wind-shaken tree. We are creatures of constant awe, curious at beauty, at leaf and blossom, at grief and pleasure, sun and shadow. And it is not darkness that unites us, not the cold distance of space, but the offering of water. Each drop of rain, each rivulet, each pulse, each vein. O second moon, we too are made of water, of vast and beckoning seas. We too are made of wonders, of great and ordinary loves, of small invisible worlds, of a need to call out through the dark. In the uncertainties of our times, friends, what can we trust? That we are not alone, that we are made for relationship, that we are made for love, giving and receiving, for calling out, maybe even singing out through the dark to one another and to others as yet unknown, discovering as we do the wonder and the healing of great and ordinary loves. Please join me and the Threshold Choir in singing one more time the song, "This Is the Moment." You've learned it now, so sing it robustly from the beginning, and notice the Threshold Choir might add some harmonies. Please rise as you're able in body or spirit.
This is the moment. Put down what you're holding. Everything is changing.
Unity Church is framed by statements of conscience, known as its end statements. One of those is generously give and openly receive compassionate care in times of joy, sorrow, and transition. Our compassionate care extends beyond the walls of this church to communities with whom we share a common interest. Each week, the larger portion of the offering goes to our community partners. And this week, the recipient is Pacem and Terrace in Isanti, Minnesota, provides solidarity and silent retreats, for anyone who reaches out to them. Founded in the Franciscan tradition, Pacem is totally ecumenical, trust me, in its scope and practice. The grounds offer many miles of carefully groomed trails and 23 individual hermitages where each person can savor their private space, surrender to the silence and the abundance of natural beauty, and slip into wonder, renewal, and reflection. Wholesome food is provided. Pacem exists entirely on donations, and participants are asked to contribute what they are able. This collection will help cover costs for those who cannot pay. Will the ushers now come forward? May the work of our hands and the generosity of our hearts be given in gratitude this day. As we take the offering today, the Threshold Choir will again sing for us. This time they sing the song, "I Will Shelter You."
Ira, you might just want to stay up because we have a very short reading and then we'll sing Keep Your Heart Wide Open. We're almost done, folks. You're going, wow, you really wanted us to trust you for more than an hour. One more reading, this one an excerpt from E.E. Cummings' poem, I Carry Your Heart.
I carry your heart with me.
I carry it in my heart.
Here is the deepest secret nobody knows.
Here is the root of the root and the bud of the bud,
And the sky of a tree called life.
which grows higher than the soul can hope or mind can hide. And this is the wonder that's keeping the stars apart.
I carry your heart.
I carry it in my heart. We'll sing one more song together. Keep your heart wide open for the third time. Now you all know it. So rise up as you embody your spirit. Let's sing it through one more time.
You gotta keep your heart wide open. Let the waves wanna push you around. You gotta keep your heart wide open till your faith brings you back to solid ground. Back to solid ground. You gotta keep my heart wide open. The waves wanna push you around. Push you around. You gotta keep my heart wide open. Till my faith brings me back to solid ground. Back to solid ground. We're gonna keep our hearts wide open. Till the waves wanna push us around. Push you around. We're gonna keep our hearts wide open. Till our faith brings us back to solid ground.
Friends, as we close our worship time today, may we trust the tensile strands of love woven through this congregation and well beyond. May we keep our hearts open, and may we share the trust we have found and given in this congregation in the world beyond. It is a resource deeply needed. Blessed be. We will extinguish the chalice now.
You can repeat after me. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth. Nor the warmth of community or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. These we carry